Yo, what's up, dogs? I went and saw Killers of the Flower Moon last week on Thursday. I saw it in IMAX at 7 p.m. Before I went to see this movie, I had a nap, a good 2 hour nap. So I don't know if that classifies as a nap or a sleep, you tell me, but it was much needed before I got into this film. And even before I got to the theater, I had a large coffee, black. Then when I got into the theater, washroom break, just to make sure I'm all, facilities are out, you know what I'm saying, cleansed. Then I got myself a medium popcorn and drink with a treat. Because I kind of had to, you got to navigate your liquids when you're going into a 3.5 hour movie, right? So I got it. And when I got into the actual theater, there was like probably 70 to maybe 80 tickets sold. It was really packed. And surprisingly, also luckily, I was able to get some buffer seats between me and my friend. My friend is 6'5", 290, and I'm 6', 390. You know what I'm saying? So we were able to actually negotiate some bufferage in our row, which was very thankful, to be honest. So yeah, I was just thinking about that. Like, my butt and my knees were sore. This is like this IMAX experience. The seats are not that good there, and I wish I could get recliner chair for an IMAX experience in my town, but that'll never happen. And I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but like after like 2.5 hours, my knees actually start to throb and my butt starts to hurt. And it's not the fault of the movie. It's probably the fault of my body and the chairs that I'm sitting in. You know what I'm saying? So there's no complaints there. I just wanted to say, it happened the same thing with Oppenheimer, right? Like that 2:30, 2:45 mark, my body was just like, can we stand? Like, I just want to stand up. My knees just want to move, So I'm sitting there in my chair just boogieing a little bit. So very thankful that I got that buffer space. And same with my buddy, right? He's trying to get his legs out there too. So anyways, before we dive into this movie, I do want to just mention one thing, that my review, it might be a little long, okay? Just want to get that out of there. It might be a little long. I have a lot of things to possibly talk about here, and I might go on some rants, because this movie kind of just hit me on a lot of levels, all right? Emotionally, I was on a roller coaster ride, because I am indigenous. I am, like, my mother's indigenous, my grandfather's indigenous, my great-grandfather is indigenous. He lived on the reservation, and the rest of my family is removed from the reservation and our culture, okay? So there's a lot of this aspect that kind of just hit me in the feels, And for those out there who are like, well, what are you? I'm Mohawk. My tribe is, Tenandaga is the reservation, Mohawk. And on the other half of me, my dad, he's English, white. You know what I'm saying? I've been thinking about this movie almost every day since I've seen it. And I'm still just like, whoa, this movie impacted me in such a great way. Such a great way. But let's get into it. And I really hope, I hope this review does this movie justice. And it makes you guys want to see it. Because there's a lot of layers in this film. And I think I'll be honest with you, I'm probably going to miss some things that I probably, when I sit down to edit this, will go, oh, I wish I mentioned that. And that usually happens when I go over this type of content, So let's just dive right in real quickly here. We got the budget. It's, according to Google, was made for $200 million. And $200 million is definitely on the screen from everything. Like, this is a period piece set in like the 1940s, late 1940s, after World War II. It's beautiful to look at. Everything's beautiful in this film, like everything. So the money is definitely on the screen. And the box office, as of recording this, we have the domestic take of $25.3 million and international of 4.6, which is at 29.9 for worldwide. Now the question is, will it make all of its money back? I don't think so. Maybe it'll hit 100 million, but it just feels like no one's like... just feels like it's done. I don't know. Hopefully it gets some legs behind it by people who are talking positively about this, and you want to go and experience this film in the theaters instead of waiting for it to come out on streaming, because when it does come out on streaming, it's most likely only coming to Apple Plus and not everywhere else. So the only time you might be able to see this film is in the theater, or you go and get another subscription, right? Or hopefully, fingers crossed, there's a physical media release, which we don't know, right? So go see it while you can. And trust me, I think you should go see it. Before I even get into all of this, go see it. Just go see it. Pause my review. Go see it. Come back and let's resume. Okay. So the critic side of things, we have our Rotten Tomato score is at 92% for the critics, 85% for the user. The Metascore is at 89 out of 100 for the critics and 8.2 for the user. And the Cinema Score itself is a solid A-. And my own personal Letterboxd score is 4 stars out of 5. So now let's get into the film. There's a lot to go through, okay? So as we know, it's directed by Martin Scorsese, and you already know what he does. This movie is beautiful. It is blocked correctly, framed correctly. Things are busy. There's layers. He knows what he's doing. We're watching a master make a film, and it's a great time to appreciate that if you just like the technical side of filmmaking, right? And I do. So I'm watching and I'm trying to learn, but I'm also getting a great story here too. So first, I'm going to just mention this before I really get into it. Spoilers are going to happen, so get ready for it. And now let's go. So we are introduced to the Osage Nation at the very beginning of this film. They are in their tribe format before anything big happens, and they're on the plains, and this is their reservation now, and they're having a ceremony where the tribal chieftains are talking about the past life of the Osage person is about to change. Their children are no longer going to be in touch with their culture. They're going to learn the words of the white man, and our lives are going to change now. And this isn't in regards yet to the actual oil, because the oil doesn't happen until after this ceremony. And in my opinion, this is them accepting their fate as being part of a reservation for all the stuff that's happened before this, right? At least that's my understanding of that interpretation at the beginning. And then once the ceremony is done, that is when we see the first oil, I don't know what to call that, geyser, sprout up from the earth, and everyone is celebrating around it, and it's kind of like it's a big deal. It's like, here we go, the money is here now. And then we kind of go through a montage of stuff of just like, fast forwarding the time, right? It's showing how the Osage were becoming more and more wealthy. We get a little voiceover about what's happened, how they become like the most wealthy nation inside North America because of the oil money. And because of this money, a lot of people have come down onto this town to make to try to prosper off of it. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's the first scene we get with Molly. Her name is Molly Kyle at this point, and she's played by Lily Gladstone. And we have this interaction of her with a banker and her wanting to withdraw funds. And the banker is like, no, we can't do that. And it's a very interesting scene because it already shows how the white man has infiltrated the financial system of the Osage people and dictating what they can and cannot do with their money. And it's just interesting, okay? It's just a very interesting little nugget of how the Osage people are dealing with the white man at this point in time. And Molly wants this money. I believe, if I recall, she's trying to get a private investigator. And as the movie progresses, you kind of see why she wasn't allowed to get that money as well. Because she knows there's something afoot going on in her, on the reservation or the territory of the Osage people, because people are just randomly dying, right? Be that from poison, be that from murder, and other nefarious means. But no one knows who exactly is pulling all the strings here to kill off these people. And they haven't really put two and two together yet of what is the actual intent and reasoning why they are they're getting murdered. So, but Molly's thinking, she's like, something's wrong here, And I'm sure her mother has been talking to her. Her mother is, well, I got it written down here. Her character's name is Tantoo Cardinal. That's played by Lizzie Q. And she is the matriarch of the family. And she is definitely one of the people that see the white man as a poison to her community, and she does not trust them. So you definitely know she's been talking to Molly about the way the white man has ascended down on this town, right? So after we have this scene with Molly, we get into the scene of the introduction of Ernest Burkhart, right? Who is played by Leonardo DiCaprio. And Ernest is a World War II vet, I guess we could say that, or survivor, but he never saw active duty. He was a line cook or a cook for the military, the U.S. military, right? But he's seen the atrocities of war. He's seen people, lose their guts and blown off limbs and stuff like that, because he does mention that in this. And we also learned that he isn't smart. He's not the brightest person out there, you know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't say, I think he's not, he's like, there's something about him. He's not all there, but he has, he starts off dumb in a sense, or maybe dumb isn't the right word to look at. He is a character who is put into this world that doesn't actually know the ins and outs of everything on this territory, right? Like, he's coming from war, so he doesn't really know what this civilized world is all about right now. And it's a new world to him too. That's the thing I think you got to look at, is this world that he goes into is something new, something foreign to him, because the America he knew when he left to go fight war isn't the same thing that he came back to. So he might come across as dumb, but I think it's more of a naivete and kind of like he's just caught in the headlights, a deer in the headlights, like, what is going on here? So he goes to the Osage Nation to work for his uncle, William Hale, who's played by Robert De Niro. And William Hale is, he's a rancher. He owns a little bit of, I don't even know if he owns actual land on the reservation, because I don't think he can actually buy reservation land, but he's a rancher in that territory. And he's actually a prominent figure in the community. A lot of people like him. The Osage Nation like him as well. He speaks their language, and he's been there for a long time. You know what I'm saying? He's been a part of the community for a long time and has built up the trust from the people around him, right? So he's an interesting fella. So when Ernest comes to live there, and he comes to live with them, there's a great conversation between them. Like, I have to say, before I get into more of the details here, some of the dialogue in this movie is absolutely hilarious, and it's just fun. It's just nice, fun banter between elder and junior, in a sense. Like, seeing William Hale talk to Ernest, it's so fun. It's so fun because Ernest is playing 4D chess. William is playing 4D chess, and Ernest is just like, I'm here to do whatever you want, uncle, because he's trying to impress his uncle, right? And he will do anything to gain favor with his uncle and look good in his uncle's eyes. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think he comes from a good home. I think we don't know much about his past life, but it just feels like he's trying to impress people and just win people over. Like, he's trying to be everyone's friend, so to speak, and he'll do anything for that acknowledgement, so to speak. Okay, so William hires Ernest on as a cab driver, and I guess that's one of his businesses. I guess I don't know how he's a cab driver. William has a lot of his fingers in a lot of different businesses in this community, right? So Ernest becomes his cab driver, and he picks up Molly, right? And this is where their relationship starts. Is he picks her up and drives her around from town to her house. And there's an interesting sequence in this when Leonardo's Ernest is exposed to the Osage city / downtown community a little bit. We see this this very interesting activity of the white man interacting with the Native Americans or the indigenous people in a way that is somewhat something that they're not used to doing. And it's so crazy because, like, you see the white man groveling and begging and not in a position of power, and you can see how their reaction is they don't know how to act in this state that is beneath them, but they have to because the Osage Nation has all the money. There's a scene where I think he's selling a car or it's a suit, this white dude, and he's begging them to buy it because he's poor. He needs the money. And it's an interesting scene. And like even there's white dudes that are the chauffeur. They're driving the Studebagas of the Osage people around. It's a very interesting scene, and you can see that these white people are tired of being like lesser. You know what I'm saying? And it's very interesting, and like you see it through Ernest's eyes. So once Ernest starts driving Molly around, he tells William, he's like, "Hey, I'm driving Molly around," and that perks up William's ears. Like, whoa, wait a second, you're driving her around? Because Molly has she's a oil. What's it called again? Oil. She has oil head rights, right? Which means she is allotted X amount of money for the oil that's on her that she owns. And her family owns. All of her sisters have oil head rights, and her mother has oil head rights as well. And so William's like, hey, if you like her, why don't you get in with her? Because she has money. You like money, don't you? And he's just like playing them. Like, you like women, right? You like money. It's really good scene work. And Ernest is like, yeah, you know what? I do like money. I do like women. Maybe he doesn't say I'm gonna go out like I'm doing this for nefarious reasons, but it's there. It's implied. So he works on Molly over a little bit. And they fall in love, they make out, they have sexual activities, they get married, they have a life together. And here's the interesting part, because I'm going to gloss over some stuff here. Ernest is a bad man that Molly doesn't know, though. And he's being played by William to act out all these atrocities. He's not involved in all of the atrocities that are going on the territory, right? But he's involved in some, and some of those are leading towards him murdering Molly's family members, and she doesn't know about it. But he is heavily involved in some way or another. And there are scenes with Ernest where he is using... where he is kind of negotiating with certain people. One of them in particular is Blackie Thompson, who is played by Tommy Schultz. He's like, hey, if you could kill this person for me, you know what? You can have my car, steal it, take it from me. It's yours. But Ernest is not good at this type of negotiation. You know what I'm saying? He's bad at it, but he's trying because he's trying to impress his uncle William, but he sucks at it, and he's dropped the ball many times throughout this movie, and we get to see his trials and errors, and eventually they bite him in the ass, right? Because he even tries, like, he's always the errand boy. That's the fun thing about this. So before, I forgot to mention one thing. There's one really cool scene in this movie that I really, really enjoyed. There's a lot, but this one really stood out to me. Was William gives Ernest a book about the Osage Nation. And he's like, read this book so you can learn more about the people here and the territory and just learn about their history and stuff. So he's reading the book at night, and there's this one scene where he flips to it and there's a picture of like something, right? You can't really make it out that well, but maybe you can. I need glasses. He's reading out loud, and he goes, can you see the wolves in this picture? And I'm sitting there going, oh, hey, Marty, double entendres, let's go. Because it's not just the wolves in the picture of the art that's inside this book. It's also the wolves in the picture of this film. Film equals picture. And I'm like, damn, that was good. That was good. You got me. Thumbs up. I liked it. And then I'm like, yeah, I can't see the wolves. His name's William. He's a wolf in sheep clothing, and he's playing 4D chess. He's damn good at it. So as the movie goes on, we're going to kind of just fly through this section, okay? Lots of people die. Molly's curious as to why people are dying. The Osage Nation is wants to hire private detectives. They want to get the government involved, and like William is on board with it. He's like, I'll put money towards it too, because no one knows his dastardly plans. And then once these detectives start showing up and shaking the cage, so to speak, William has them all pretty much killed. And guess who's involved with it? Ernest. And guess who's involved with killing some of these family members? Ernest. And guess who's involved with finding people to go kill other people? Ernest. And guess what? The whole point of all of this is to kill these people off so the oil head rights grow in Molly's favor. So when Ernest and Molly marry, the oil rights eventually will come to him when she dies. And that becomes the next section of this movie. Is we have a point where Ernest starts poisoning Molly. And it's kind of wild because he's so dumb, but also gullible, that he believes that the medicine that he is giving Molly to help her with her diabetes is going to save her, you know? But I also think he knows what he's doing. He's not, like, he comes across as dumb a lot, but I do think he knows what he's doing. And he has this struggle between him and himself where he is like, what am I doing? And there is a scene where he takes the medicine and drinks it and kind of has a reaction to it of like, oh, this is what I'm doing to her. But it makes you go, never once did I ever think he actually loves Molly, you know? And I don't think he does, period. Even to the very end of this film, I do not think he legitimately loves her no matter what. I don't feel it, period. And so, before he poisons Molly, he is poisoning her, and she is getting weaker. And she says to him, my last act on this earth is to go to the president and tell him we need your help. And there's nothing he can do. Ernest, there's nothing he can do to stop her and her actions. So she gets on the train. They show it. It goes to the Washington, D.C. or whatever it is. And she talks to the president. It's a very subtle scene. Like, there's not a lot of dialogue or anything like that. And it just shows like the president is acknowledging that something's going on there. And then it comes back to her being sick. You know what I'm saying? She gets home, she's sick, and she is slowly dying. It's kind of wild. And then all of a sudden, after some more deaths, the Bureau of Investigations, the BOI, before they're the federal FBIs, you know what I'm saying, shows up at Ernest's door. Oh, there's a cool scene. Before I get into that, there's actually a cool scene. I can't remember whereabouts in the movie it is, but the people who live in this town, the Osage people, are kind of getting fed up of dying. And so the town themselves actually packs up and leaves because they don't know who's killing them. They don't know if it's a serial killer or if it's a single person or if it's multiple people, but they're afraid and they actually start to pack and leave. I don't think they say where they're going, but they're getting out of there. And it's kind of wild. It's a really interesting scene where they're just like, we're leaving. We're tired of dying. We don't know who to trust anymore, but we won't come back until stuff's sorted out. So that's cool. And then we get to a scene where the FBI show up, or the BOI show up, and then we got, what's his name? Jesse Plemons shows up as Tom White, the FBI investigator, and he starts doing work. You know what I'm saying? He starts interrogating Ernest. Well, not interrogating, but spying on him, following him and his every little move. And he wants to speak to Molly, and he goes after William. He goes and talks to him, but he has other detectives with him that are out there in the field doing things too. And they're just gathering information. They're just trying to figure out what is going on. Why is there this epidemic of death going on in this territory? It's a concern, right? So as they start unraveling things, there's a great scene where they meet up. And there's a character in here who's played by, there's a character named John Wren. I believe that's how his name is pronounced. Who's played by Tatanka Means. And he's so cool. He's a native dude who's undercover. And the scene that is really neat with him is, there's a scene where Jesse Plemons is like surveying the town, so to speak. I think that's what's going on. And he's like in the town, he's walking around seeing stuff. And off to the right-hand corner, you see this figure show up, which is Tatanka, right? He shows up. And I'm drawn over there. And lyrically, sound, vocals, you hear him talking about just being in town. And he's talking to the Osage people, and they're interested in him. They're like, "Oh, so you're from out of town, brother? What brings you here?" And he's like, "Oh, my mother said, no, so my father said I have Osage blood in me from my mother's side, and I came here to see what's going on and just see what land rights and stuff I have." And they're all on board, but he's a spy, and it's so great because you just see scenes with him lurking around in the background, but watching and always watching, and it's very subtle stuff about that character, and I really liked it. And honestly, I would love a movie about him, but that's different. I just loved every scene he was in. So there comes a point where all the detectives get together, and he walks in, and you're like, "Oh snap, he's a detective too." Well, you kind of already know he's a detective because of the scenes leading up to it. But it's just nice to see them all come together and be like, "What notes do we have here?" And so they go over everything. And they're like, "All roads lead to Ernest." And then they go after Ernest and arrest him. And it's cool. And then they save Molly to get her to a doctor. And then Ernest has the interrogation scenes. And they do not treat him good. Not good like they're beating him up or anything like that. They kind of like, it's a good scene because he wants to sit down and there's a chair over to the side. And they're like, "No, you can't sit." He's like, "Please, can I just sit?" And they make him stand for hours and hours and hours until he can't do it no more. And then he starts snitching, and he snitches on everybody, and then the people that he snitched on snitches, and everything is happening. And so what happens at this point in the movie, it's actually really cool. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here, because as these people are snitching, Ernest is in jail, William's still available, and William is out there William's out there taking chess pieces off the board before Tom White can get to them, right? And he's like, because these guys that are out there that can interrogate or I guess rat on William, he wants them dead, and that's what he's doing. He's killing them. He himself isn't killing them. He's getting people in certain positions to kill them. He's leaving out trails of like, "Hey, go do this bank robbery over here because no one's going to be here." But then he tells the person who owns the bank, "Hey, this guy's coming. Inside scoop. Kill him." And so it happens and he dies. You know what I'm saying? So there's this like frantic pacing, and it's not pacing like that, but there's this frantic movement of, we have to get this guy arrested before he kills all of our witnesses. You know what I'm saying? So it's really cool. It's really cool. And then we get to the end. Yeah, let's just jump to the end because there's nothing really else to explain, I think. Because like, there's okay, before we get to the end, one thing I do want to bring up is every single time Robert De Niro showed up in the like old school car, he had the driving goggles on and he looked absolutely ridiculous, but everyone in the audience was laughing because he sold it so well. I was laughing every time he pulled up, and like some of the dialogue that he would just like kind of like just demean Leo's character was hilarious. And I have to say, I think me and the rest of the audience, we laughed at all the right spots because there is a lot of funniness going on in this movie along with a lot of seriousness. So because like, you know how Martin works, right? He gives you a lot of intensity and he breaks it up with some levity, and that's what he does in this movie. And there's a lot of it, and not a lot, but it's really well timed, and I appreciate that. So let's get to the ending and kind of wrap this whole review up. The ending of this movie might not work for everybody. It didn't work for me at first. I had to actually sit down and think about it because I didn't understand what was going on at that point when I was watching it, right? I was kind of like, what the hell is this? So the ending of the movie is literally, it just stops abruptly and it becomes a radio play, okay? And you're kind of sitting there going, what? What is going on here? And it took me a minute or two to kind of like, not a minute or two, days. Because like originally I was like, did Marty not like the ending of the original cut? And he's like, I need something, so let's do this. But no, he's smart. Everything he does is intentional. So here's how I think I break this ending down: is the atrocities that have happened to the Osage people have been watered down and dramatized to a form of entertainment where these real people have actually become caricatures of themselves. And this thing that really happened to these people is now a form of entertainment to cause the people of the nation to view this story as like wild disbelief or like a Wild West like story, right? Like it almost painted it in the sense of this is a fictional tale, but it really happened. And it made the Osage people look like characters, like cartoon characters. It made the villains look like cartoon characters. Like the whole thing is looking like it's a big staged play. It didn't happen at all. You know what I'm saying? And it works. It really works, especially because Marty Scorsese comes in, says the final dialogue part, and he's literally looking at you. And now I'm kind of interpreting his final piece going, hey, I did it twice. I took this real event, I made it into a movie for the world to enjoy, and here you go. You know, like, it's a real thing that happened, but I had to make it something entertaining for you in order for you to acknowledge that this real thing happened. You know what I'm saying? There's like layers in there. There's layers in there. But that radio show ending hit me hard because I was mad and I was sad. This whole movie had me on a roller coaster of emotions. You know what I'm saying? There's so much going on in this film. And I just want to say the very end piece though, when he wraps it up, right? It's a nice, beautiful image of the Osage people playing the drum, top-down shot, zooming out, and you see the dancers around him. Around the drum circle. And like the message really is at the end, like, you know, we're still here. You know, we're still here. We're still alive. We're living well. Our communities are growing. We're getting stronger day by day. The drum keeps going. The beat goes on. And you didn't win. You didn't defeat us, you know. And that's what I took away from that very ending. I almost cried. And like, yeah, man, it's a good film. It really is. I highly recommend you go and see it. I do. Like, just go. Just go see it. And like, will I buy this for the collection? Yeah, if I can. If it comes out on physical media, I will definitely buy it. Day one, no problems. And I look forward to watching this film again because I know there's probably stuff in there that I didn't get the first time. You know what I'm saying? I know there's stuff in there. There's little nuggets in there for me still. And yeah, that's really it, you know? I gotta go. Yeah, I hope you guys like this review. So please leave a comment. Let's talk about this film. And yeah, what's next? Five Nights at Freddy I will go and see. And I think there's a new John Cena movie coming out in November, like the first week of November. So I'll go see that too. And yeah, man, I gotta go. I gotta dry my hair. I was out in the rain today. We had a rain day at work. Anyways, I gotta go. Whatever movie you guys are watching, I hope you guys are loving it and digging it. I'm out of here. Peace out, everyone. Bye.